When you smoke, you don't realize any problem. You think that you always can quiet it. It's not a problem at all. This is my last cigarette, this is another last cigarette, this is one more. Your brain tries to tell you, listen, dear, we agreed with you, everything was okay, we were smoking, it was great, and how you refuse it? We talk about why we quit drinking, smoke weed, play computer games, work at unloved job, hold on to toxic relationships and everything else that prevents us from being happy. Join us. My name is Nikolai Krivoruchko, I'm 29 years old, I'm doing businesses. At the same time, I have enrolled in an acting school in September. Generally, I'm trying to lead an active life. I simultaneously go karting, chess and poker, read books and travel. Let's just say, I try to make my life interesting for me, and then I think one day I will be interesting to others. So, that's all for now. And today we will talk about the dangers of smoking or my experience of how I quit smoking.
Why did you smoke? What benefit did it bring to you?
I have been quitting smoking 3 times. The first time I started to smoke was when I was 13 years old. It was a story of a yard boy who was spending his free time with his friends after school somewhere in the backyard. At some point we understood that we wanted to be older, we wanted to look like older guys. They all were smoking, and the only way to become older we saw maybe in cigarettes. I remember we were walking and looking for cigarette butts in the backyards, opening these packs. Now I remember how scary it was. There are no packs and cigarettes under the balconies downtown now, but in the past people dropped cigarette butts off the balcony. It was normal to drop cigarette butts, packs and anything else to the ground. I remember I found a pack of Blue Bond, there was 7 cigarettes. I said, Andrew, look, we have 7 cigarettes, and we went to the back of the garage. I remember my first cigarette. When I smoked, it was very unpleasant, the body resisted. The first cigarette goes like a wedge, it was really bad. The first pull always hurts, you cough, it's unpleasant. So I started to smoke at 13 years old. When you smoke, you don't see any problem, you think that you always at any moment can quiet it. It's not a problem, this is my last cigarette, this is my another last cigarette, this is one more. When you say to yourself, that's all, I quit smoking, then the funniest story begins.
Why is smoking bad?
Frankly speaking, I didn't feel that it was bad. When your body is young, you can drink and smoke whatever you want. When you are young, you don't feel it. But I understood that it was not right. I understood that it was forced on me. I understood that I inhaled smoke, that it was not good. I saw the advertisements. Anyway, you have insight that cigarettes are bad. The environment says, although I was okay at the same time. Yes, you have some breathlessness. You think, it's just a breathlessness, I can run. And this is the danger, that you don't see any problem. You have a cigarette. I have a lot of friends who smoke for 10 years and they don't see any problem. But actually, it is a problem. And the problem is that you are addicted. Your teeth are yellow, you have yellow marks under your nails. You have shortness of breath and a bad smell from the mouth. You really stink, really. You come to some girl and she says, Koля, did you smoke? You answer, yes, and you understand that your smell is really bad. Let's just say, these are the problems, but the most important thing is that one moment people want to quit smoking. But unfortunately, not everyone can do it. The problem is that you have narrow connections, and the whole problem is not even in habits, but in narrow connections. I think if my parents told me, I don't know whether I heard them or not, but if my father sat down with me and said, you will want to smoke, it's normal. All of us at one moment want to start smoking, but look, you can smoke, but you will have narrow addiction at the level of the brain. And the moment will come when you want to quit, but this narrow addiction will be so dense and strong that it will be really hard for you. So try to quit it now. So it's good to speak about it when you are 29 years old, because I understand who I was at 17 years old. I didn't listen to anybody, I did what I wanted. But I don't know, you must try to listen that cigarettes are bad.
What was the reason for your smoking cessation?
Talk about the last iteration when I stopped smoking. It was the 4th of January, I went outside, we were celebrating the New Year. I took a rolled cigarette, I was cold, it was unpleasant, I didn't enjoy it, and I understood at some moment that I went outside because I had an addiction. I didn't want to smoke, it was just a habit. At that moment I understood that the habit takes over. I wasn't free. Essentially, I always strive for freedom in my expressions and activities. Here, a rolled cigarette determines my action. I looked at it again and said, no, enough. I threw it away that day and said that I didn't need it anymore. The biggest harm is that cigarettes make people not free, so you depend on it. And I will tell you the story about my father. He was 27. It was 1987 in the Soviet Union. You couldn't buy cigarettes late evening. He ran out of cigarettes and he said, "Koля." I sat down and started to analyze what would be with me. And in 3 hours, he said, his ears began to curl up into a tube. I wanted to smoke so strong that my ears began to curl up into a tube. He said that he was so afraid of this state, and after that he understood that smoking is really bad. And the same situation was in my life when I quit smoking. You constantly think about cigarettes. The brain tries to tell you, listen, dear, we agreed with you, everything was okay, we were smoking, there was nicotine, it was great, and now you refuse it. And your brain tries to impose on you that you are cool when you are with cigarettes, that it really suits you, you are so romantic, girls love guys who smoke. Because your brain's main goal is to return to cigarettes, because it's a habit, addiction, narrow addiction. It's the nicotine that your brain needs. It takes time for the addiction to go away. And the biggest danger is that it is clear that cigarettes kill people, and cigarettes harm the lungs. My grandmother is 70. She was born in 1947, and she is 33 now. In September, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. She was smoking all her life from 20 years old, and when we spoke with doctors, they said, guys, 9 out of 10 patients who have lung cancer come to us because they smoke. And today the doctors cut off part of my grandmother's lung, who is 73 years old, and she is in rehab. And there is no guarantee that this tumor was cured. It's just a casual relationship. Do I feel sorry for my grandmother? Yes, but I understand this casual relationship. I understand that it didn't just happen. She smoked for 50 years. Every day, Marlboro, 4 is cool, stylish, and so on. But it kills. It kills, destroys. Furthermore, talking about me, a cigarette for me is like a chain reaction. In the beginning, you see it and think, I just smoke the cigarette, but the cigarette takes your sport. If you have a cigarette, you don't have a sport. I saw very few people who can smoke and do sport at the same time. You choose either a cigarette or sport. Okay, cigarette. After this, you start to smoke the cigarette and think, right now I would like to drink Coca-Cola. It's a really good combination. It looks like just a cigarette, but this includes beer and Coca-Cola. After cigarettes you have an aftertaste, and you need something to eat to neutralize it. You begin to eat crisps, potatoes and anything else. And there is a set. At the beginning we spoke about cigarettes, and now we have beer, alcohol, fried food and crisps. After you eat it, you need to immediately smoke. This is a chain reaction. Essentially, we can't say that one cigarette is the reason for the whole damage, but cigarettes connect to other habits. But when you quit smoking, you have a desire to replace it with something. So when we quit something, we have free space, and the question is what we bring to this space. If we bring something which is worse than a cigarette, God forbid, it's better to come back to cigarettes. But if we can and want to replace it with sport, then it's necessity. In my life, when I stopped smoking, sports began, football began, some activities, walks and so on. So cigarettes are a very complex story.
How has your life changed after this?
Again, I repeat that in my life it was like this. I stopped drinking alcohol and I haven't drunk for 2 years. 1 year after this I stopped smoking. Now it's a moment of cleansing. I have just understood that a lot of things are imposed on us, just because we are perceived as consumers. And we must just consume. There are cigarettes, alcohol, TV, Facebook, TikTok, all of this, because basically we are perceived as dumb consumers. And at one moment I have wanted to be cleansed from all these things, come back to the source. That's why when I stopped smoking, I started to do more sports, more healthy food, more attention to myself and my feelings. It's a large reflection. Because when I stopped, I had an experience. I had stopped to smoke 3 times before and hadn't smoked for 3 years. I knew how my body would act, how my brain will try to fool me. I understood it all. I say to myself, Коля, just look, you decided you don't smoke anymore. Look how your brain will cunningly try to bring you back to this condition. At least I started to understand my brain better. Sometimes people say, that person is intelligent, he has a smart brain. But our brains have only one task, to protect us. And sometimes it can protect us by harming us. My brains understood everything. I smoked. We had good communication, but I stopped smoking, and it's like a danger to my brain. Коля, what are you doing with me? Come back, you are cool. What about the girls? What about your fashion, smoke and romance? But when you attend to this, you say, no, brain, I understand that you protect me, thank you, but I will not smoke. And if we speak about changes in my life, maybe it's more sport, self-understanding. I am sure that I will become more healthy. Health came because I stopped eating fried food and sweets. Was the need to seize up, smoke, the stinky state. I started sleeping better, I started running really better. I play football and breathlessness is unreal when you smoke. I don't know how people smoke and run at the same time. Something terrible is happening with the heart. It breaks down very quickly. So, the only benefits: health, self-understanding, self-communication, and proper nutrition. My friends state, I didn't have a desire to change my friends, asking them not to smoke. Like, you smoke and I don't smoke, come on, don't smoke too. No, it's personal, everyone has his own way. But for myself, I understood that no, it's not my way. I will tell you another moment. There is some parable, not a parable but an example. The plane flies out of Los Angeles and flies to Washington, for example. If we change it by 1 degree during takeoff, then it arrives not in Washington, but in New York. And this 1 degree, which you change at the beginning, you don't feel at this stage, but in fact, you arrive at another place. It often happens that we change something and want some reaction immediately. But in fact, you cannot feel this reaction. But with my brain, I understand that if I don't smoke, don't drink, I become more healthy and most likely I will arrive not in Washington, but in New York. Clear? Because again, what is the problem to stop smoking? Everyone wants instant indicators. I want to quit and don't want it anymore. No, it doesn't happen. You must endure. You must understand that it takes some time for body restructuring, months, 2, 3 or half of a year. You must understand that there are neural connections, for example, situational. When I quit smoking, I had 3 moments. I liked very much to smoke with my grandmother. I liked to smoke when I was on the lift, when I was snowboarding. At that moment, when you get up, you see mountains and smoke. It's wonderful. And the third moment, I really like to smoke outdoors. And it's neural connections. For example, when I am with my grandmother now, or when I'm snowboarding, I don't have a habit, but I have neural connections. And I remember then in the past I took a cigarette at this moment. It's neural connection. And thank God that I understand it. Okay, now I act another way. I don't fly to Washington, I fly to New York.
What advice would you give to those who won't quit smoking?
When you quit smoking, you just need to realize it. Just realize and say to yourself, I don't want it anymore. Because if you don't have this understanding, if people try to quit smoking under the pressure of relatives, they say to him or her, quit smoking, but he is not ready for it. It will be really difficult for him. He will get more damage at the level of the nervous system, because he still wants it, but he can't smoke. He forbids himself. Bans don't help. You need to say to yourself, no, I don't want it anymore. For different reasons. I want to meet a girl. I want to be more healthy. I want to live a long life. Everyone can have a lot of reasons, but first you need to recognize and say to yourself that you will not smoke anymore. If we speak about life hacks, I had different ones. When I tried to quit smoking the first time, I understood that I would have a withdrawal. I said to myself, Коля, if you want to take a cigarette, take 200 grivnas. A cigarette costs 200 grivnas. Can you drink a cocktail that costs 200 grivnas in a pub? Yes, you can. Take these 200 grivnas and give it to the first comer. If I want to smoke, I will give you 200 grivnas, and then I will be able to take a cigarette. The first time it really helps. You understand that it's a bad idea. Your brain will try conning. The best thing you can do is agree that you have addiction. Put up with that your brain will try to deceive you. It will try to lead me to a cigarette. And the best thing I recognized is to sit and say to myself, Kolya, I decided I would just see how my body would try to cheat me, but I will not believe it. I will go my way. And maybe this internal power of will really helps because there are a lot of people who unfortunately can't quit smoking. Because they don't have enough of this power of will. And it's really difficult for them. So the power of will, understanding why you need it or why you don't need it, like, enough, it's not my way, I want to be healthy. So when you understand it, it's a half of the way. Other thing you will find by yourself, you will find your instruments. Everyone has his own brain, and we need to find ways to deal with it, but desire and willpower will help you. Be strong and everything will be good.